Good morning. I'm Tom Chalkley, and I serve on the board of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. I welcome everyone to our service this morning and welcome visitors to our open and inclusive community of faith. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to faith, truth and meaning, and we support one another as we each explore these paths. I would like to especially welcome our guests and welcome again those who have visited us before. Visitors, it is the custom of our congregation to invite you to stand and give your name and where you're from, if you feel comfortable doing so. Are there visitors who would like to introduce themselves? Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to everyone visiting today. Please join us after the service for our coffee hour. We would love to have a chance to get to know you better. Our minister, Reverend Tom Capo, our congregational life coordinator, Mary Law, and all of our members are eager to meet you. Please feel free to approach anyone with a green cup with any question that you might have. You can use the white cups as well. Our service can be heard outside the glass doors at the back of the sanctuary should anyone feel the need to leave the service for any reason. There are chairs provided for your convenience. Please refer to the order of service for any further announcements, and we have one, okay. And please silence all electronic devices. But we have a special announcement.
Yes. A special announcement today. As you may know, we are going to be celebrating our members' special anniversaries today, and we have set up an endowment table. And just in case you wanted to perhaps celebrate that anniversary with a gift to the endowment fund, we are there to take your gift. Okay? Thanks.
As we light the chalice this morning, let us reflect on our third principle. We believe that we should respect one another and keep on learning together.
All music this morning that we're going to be singing was written and composed by Unitarian Universalists. Before we sing our opening hymn, I want to say a few words about the music. There's an old joke about Unitarian Universalists. It goes, Unitarian Universalists are poor singers because they always have to read ahead to see if they agree with the words before they sing them. Well, there's some truth in that. Words can trigger, for some members of the congregation, negative feelings, perhaps even feeling marginalized. So last week week before last, I attended a preaching seminar and heard something I hope will be embraced by this church. Dr. Glenn Thomas Rideout, Director of Music and Worship at First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan, told this choir of all ministers the following. The music that we sing this morning was written by someone else. We are borrowing it. And since we are borrowing it, I do not feel I can ethically change the words. However, there may be a word or words that you do not feel you can sing with authenticity. So I invite you, if a word comes up, instead of just not singing, to sing a word that you can sing. So if a word like God comes up and you don't feel that you can sing that, sing what you can sing. It could be a word or a noise or you could just hum, but it could be all different. And that's great because that's part of what being Unitarian Universalism is all about. So as we sing this first hymn, there may be some words in that, or even any of the hymns today or in the future. If you find a word that you can't sing, sing whatever. Whatever's on your heart. It's what it is to be a Unitarian Universalist. We're going to sing about our unity and diversity every time we sing. So please rise in your in body or spirit, and let's sing We Are. I forgot to say, good morning. It is a beautiful morning out there, my goodness. I'm the Reverend Tom Capo, the minister here at DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. Today we're going to honor those who have milestone anniversaries and hear from a couple of those people who have anniversaries today as they express their thoughts and feelings about being a Unitarian Universalist and about being members of this church. So people have been joining DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church for over 60 years now. Today we're going to recognize some of those members who carried out the ministry of this church through their presence, through their willingness to jump when the need arises, offering precious time, important skills, knowledge, donating wisdom and creativity, sharing their enthusiasm and their financial resources. We celebrate with you, those of you who have anniversaries, your anniversaries today as members of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church.
Now I will share our beloved friends who are celebrating their membership anniversaries here at DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. Please stand when your name appears on the slides so we can recognize you as you celebrate your anniversary today. I ask the congregation to hold their applause until I have finished sharing all the member anniversaries, and that means all the way to someone celebrating their 60th anniversary as a member of this church. So we have our 5 years. Okay. 10 years. We have Steve and Sally.
All right.
Our 15 years. Okay. 20 years. 25 years. Ellie was here earlier, and we have Chris. 30 years. Right? Yes, we've got a lot. Yay. 35 years, be Phil and Jan Berry. 45 years is Ruth Barr. And then 50 years, we have Edna and Tom Groves and Lorraine Keener.
You can probably give them.
And at 55 years, we had Betty Brubaker, who was here earlier. And then our 60-year anniversary is Elliot Pollister.
You have come here seeking meaning and fulfillment, following the paths of belief and reason that led you here, opening your hearts to fellow spiritual seekers, and reaching out to people in need. You've worked for justice in this world and goodness in the heart, and I want to thank you all for being engaged and active members in the life of this church. I ask if you all would join me in a responsive reading. If you'll read the italics. What is this church? It's not the minister, except to the extent that we have called him to inspire and guide our spiritual lives. It is not even the beliefs, for we Unitarian Universalists have no single unifying belief, only the combined beliefs of each and every one of us. Buildings may fall down, ministers may retire, music may go out of tune, and beliefs may falter. Congratulations, all of you, on your anniversaries today.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join me in saying our mission statement, which is printed in your order of service and projected to your left. And please remain up for our first hymn. We gather as an inclusive community to grow in character, mind, and spirit, and to transform the world toward fairness, love, and compassion. Please rise in body or spirit and let us sing the first verse of hymn 1008 in the Teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. The words will be projected to your left. Share some of his thoughts about being a Unitarian Universalist.
been asked to tell you how I know that I am called to be a UU. Well, I'm not just called to be a UU. I'm called to be a card-carrying UU. And I say that I am also a born-again UU. Now, you might be asking yourself how someone could be a born-again UU. I call myself born-again because I have seen the wisdom and, for me, the truth of the 7 principles. And I have a clear idea from those 7 principles what the term right relationship means to me. So here's the thing. I know that I have inherent worth and dignity. Nobody has given that to me. I was born with it. In this age, on this planet, in this universe, with the opportunity to make of my life everything that I could. So really, there never was a time when it required somebody else to say he has inherent worth and dignity. And you all have inherent worth and dignity. I was going to say the people going past us on 88, but actually the people sliding past us here on Naperville Boulevard have inherent worth and dignity. We were all born with the opportunity to make of our life what we could and still can. And we UUs who happen to be members of this congregation, each have our own special beauty and uniqueness. So what about this right relationship thing? In my book, right relationship is really an old saying, live and let live. It's the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's healthy boundaries between people. And this is where the UU 7 principles come into play in right relationship. We all have the inherent worth and dignity, and we each have our own life histories. But it means 2 things to me. First, that we are each called to be UUs together, a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences as well. And second, to be in right relationship, we have to trust each other, and we have to cherish our differences, and we have to learn from the combined experience and wisdom that we possess together. In other words, I am not in right relationship when I expect you to walk and talk as I do. I am not in right relationship if I insist you do things my way. I am not in right relationship unless in our interactions together there is justice and equity and compassion. I am not in right relationship unless I understand and honor your spiritual growth and your free and responsible search for truth and meaning. In short, I am only in right relationship if I recognize you as unique persons, using the 7 principles in your life opportunities just as I try to do in mine. So to say it again, we live and let live with mutual respect for each other. And that's why I carry the 7 principles in my wallet and say I'm a born-again UU. I was thinking about this on Friday, sitting and realizing Sunday was coming, and I was really scared because I'm not a polished speaker. So I decided I should really think about this a bit. And as I was doing so, having listened to the radio and other things, I realized I'm really angry. I'm really angry about a lot of stuff that's going on. And that got me to thinking that there are actually 2 pieces of me. One is that nice idealistic piece that I just read you, and the other is a piece that gets angry and doesn't always see the inherent worth and dignity until I take a pause and I can be reminded of it. So I have a lot to learn.
Please rise and body your spirit, and let us sing the 2nd verse of hymn 1008 in the teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. The words will be projected to your left.
Oop, there he is. Neil Lichtman will now come up and introduce Edna and Tom Groves, who are celebrating their 50 years here at DUC. He will share some of his thoughts and feelings about their contributions over the years.
Tom and Edna arrived here by way of being members of the UU congregations in West Lafayette and South Bend, Indiana. But in 1968, Tom took a position at Argonne, and the family moved to Naperville. It was back in Lafayette that they concluded their religious search, deciding that UUism made both of them most comfortable. Tom was raised at the First Unitarian Universalist Society in Madison, Wisconsin. So let me begin with Tom's contributions to DUUC. In 1971, while Reverend Gene Creeves was the minister, Tom was arm-twisted into becoming our church president. His first crisis was working the coordinating council and the congregation through accepting the UUA's first sex education program for youth RE, which taught that homosexuality was a natural part of the range of human sexuality. The congregation ultimately accepted the program, but it was not without substantial internal struggle. Tom's second crisis was recruiting both a treasurer and a canvas chair. Unsuccessful at recruiting either, Tom took on these tasks while being board president. The following spring, Edna solved the problem, suggesting Tom find a successor to be president and keep the full-time treasurer and canvas lead positions. It worked. Tom resigned the presidency, Jim Harvey took over, and Tom continued to serve on our church finances. For the next 16 years, Tom and Edna concentrated on their careers, receding eventually to being contributing friends. But in 1990, as Tom was recovering from a near life-taking automobile accident, he and Edna received a call from the chair of our TLC asking what could they do for the Groves. Edna gratefully said that the 4 members could come over and help plant the annuals. And on a sweltering June day, they did. That caring brought Edna and Tom back as full members, not just contributing friends to DUUC. Immediately, Tom joined the first incarnation of the men's group. Not long after, Tom took over the treasurer's job again. Later, as I moved off as board trustee to lead a search committee, Tom replaced me. First, he chaired a task force that updated our Constitution. A year later, he was integral to a special committee that led to creating our comptroller position and redefining the treasurer's role. And it's been brought to my attention between services that Tom was a longtime member of our endowment fund and has for the past 10 years been an emeritus member of that fund as well. Topping off Tom's long association with all of our funds, he has been our bookkeeper for the past 12 years. Thank you, Tom. Now let us thank Edna. Edna's contributions span 3 categories. First, official church positions. Second, auction workshops. And third, private workshops for our members and others for which she has contributed rent unasked. First, her official church positions. Edna's contributions begin in 1980 as a member of the Ministerial Relations Committee for Reverend Bill Mundy, who followed Gene Creeves. In the early 1970s, with another church member, she created our first circle supper dinners, circle suppers, tracking attendees, recording who they profess to like or not, and rotating people around. She did this for many years. And over the years, she has been on the Sunday Services Committee or a worship associate 3 times, and for 1 year served on the Sunday Evening Service Committee. She served on a Ministerial Search Committee. In recent years, She has served on the Committee on Ministry for both Reverend Emmylou Belcher and Reverend Tom Capper. Today, Edna is a member of our Pastoral Ministry Associates. Edna has created service auction workshops as follows. Write your own obituary, the story of your name, being mortal, based on Atul Gawande's book, becoming an elder, for which she had 17 sign-ups, all of whom completed the workshop, designed for one to write the eulogy they'd like given at their own memorial service. And it turns out that after our own Mike Fleischer unexpectedly died, his self-written eulogy was read at his memorial service. Those of you who have been successfully on her mustard for several years may know her as our mustard maven. And Edna created private workshops and voluntarily submitted rent for a number of subjects, among them teaching people to write a legacy letter for a member or members of their family to be sent after their death, and another helping people write their own obituaries. We thank Edna for the breadth and creativity of her contributions. Tom and Edna are off to Boise, Idaho, where they will join the 300-member UU Fellowship. Let's welcome them up here to share a few of their own thoughts. Tom and Edna, please come up.
While driving to church this morning, a couple of thoughts came to me. First off, I remember a story my father used to love to tell about the town vagrant who was always getting in one kind of trouble or after another. And one time after a particularly serious offense, he had been tarred and feathered and was being rode out of town on a rail. And someone from the crowd called out, asking if he had any words. And he said, well, yes, it's a beautiful day, but I sure could use without all this special attention. 50 years is a long time, and there are not many of us left. But I got to say, Lorraine, it's a joy to see you here this morning. Thank you for coming. The other thought, how some things never seem to change. In 1968, what is now our Learning Center, then it was the new sanctuary, was newly constructed. Gene Creeves was the minister, and the church was struggling to pay off the mortgage. And in 1990, Creeves Hall was newly constructed. Kendall Gibbons was the minister, and the church was struggling to pay off the mortgage. Today, Tom Capel is a minister. We have this new sanctuary, and we're struggling to pay off the mortgage. But seriously, over all these 50 years, this church has been our community. It's where our friends have been. People know us, and we've always been able to count on the church for support in times of need. Neil told the story about the four TLC members who came over and planted our annuals at really hot, sweltering day in June back then. It may not seem like very much, but back then it was everything. So I want to thank you one and all for having been our strong, supportive friends over all these years. Your kindness and your generosity, I'll never forget them. Thank you.
I have paper, so I have to have a place to put it, so I'm up here. I realized between services that I gave a part of this service in 2004. So those of you who were here then and were listening might think that you were hearing something that you already heard before, and it's true. So what I'd like to talk about is belonging, my own sense of belonging in this church, because for a long, long time, I didn't feel that I did. I'm starting from 1968 when Tom and I and our 4 daughters came here and joined what was then the DuPage Unitarian Church. And the minister was a firm and committed humanist, a Vietnam War protester, a man of strong values, a social activist, and very much about living in the world with the Unitarian creed of doing work in the world. He didn't hold much with what I remember being called belly button watching. And belly button watching is what I do. I reflect a lot about my life and about the way I'm living and about other people and about relationships. I do that. It's a part of me that I have come to value. At the time, I was kind of shaky about that in 1968 and in the 70s because I needed affirmation from somewhere that I was someone of value. And belly button watchers weren't in that crowd, or so I felt. I was engaged a lot during those years in examining my life and ascertaining my life purpose. I was a wife and a mother of 4 daughters and eventually became a feminist and a student and eventually became a psychotherapist. And when I was in school learning about psychotherapy, we were urged to reflect upon ourselves. We got a lot of affirmation for doing that, and we believed, and we were helped to believe, that the more any one of us knew about ourselves, the more effective we would be as a therapist. So that was a missing piece for me, which was getting filled in, not here, but somewhere else. And it became, I came to know, I came to value that part of myself and really treasure it. So in the 70s, we were here, and I was developing into someone with a career. And in 1982, for a number of reasons, we resigned our membership here and became pledging friends. So since 1968, and I said this in the earlier service, it's a point of honor for us that we have always been financially contributing to this church from the time we first came in 1968. And then when we dropped our membership, we remained as pledging friends. And in 1990, as Neil mentioned, Tom had this life-threatening accident, and our lives all went up for grabs in our family. And it was rough. So he was hospitalized near Rockford for 19 days, and then he came home and was recovering all summer, and it was hard. And then this call came from Carol Ambergy, who was chair of TLC, asking how they could help. And I had been standing at the window knowing how impoverished our borders looked because I couldn't get out there and do anything. And I said, yeah, it would be wonderful if you would come and put in annuals for us. So Carol and a group of 3 others, and Lorraine, I don't know if you remember, but you were one of those 3 others with Carol Ambergy, and Robin Spreetsma came, and Lois Schnitzlein came. And those 4 women were out there digging away in that heat to make our lives better. And it was so moving for us to be so cared for that it turned us around. We had an awareness then of, oh, we're really missing something here. And let's go back. So we came back in 1990 as soon as Tom was able to be ambulatory fully. We came back, and we've been members ever since. Of course, the changes that we went through during those years were monumental. So when we came back, I knew some things about myself. I knew them to be true, and I no longer needed the affirmation from outside of me, because I had developed it myself, that being a belly button watcher was a pretty good thing to be. And I could do that, and I could still participate in the activities of the church, both internal activities and here and there, some that were out in the world activities. And I'm proud of being a member here. I'm proud of it. I am grateful for all the friends that we have made here, and leave with a sad heart. Last week, Sue Gately was talking about the activities of the Pastoral Ministry Committee, and she quoted the Dalai Lama, who said, "Wherever you have friends, that's your country. Wherever you receive love, that's your home." You are our country. UUism, being a UU, is part of our country, the way we live in our country, and giving and receiving and giving love, that's not in the quote, but it seems very true for me. That's part of what makes home home. It's the place to give and receive both. So we have friends that we're going to be leaving, and neighbors who gave us a wonderful party a couple nights ago. And it's a sad time in our house, and there's no getting around it. We're living with some loss now, though we will be here for the next 2 weeks and probably here the last Sunday of the month, here. But there's something else waiting out there for us. I know that, I believe that. And we will make home in a different place, in a different way, but we will do it. And I want to finish with these words of Natalie Goldberg. Whether we know it or not, we transmit the presence of everyone we have ever known, as though by being in each other's presence, we exchange ourselves. We pass on some of our life force. And then we go on carrying that other person in our body. Not unlike springtime, when certain plants in fields we walk through attach their seeds in the form of small burrs to our socks, our pants, our caps, as if to say, go on, take us with you, carry us to root in another place. That is why, she writes, it is important who we become, because we pass it on. So I don't think of you as burrs, but if anybody wanted to live in Boise, let me know, and I'll put the word out there, non-verbally probably, that there is someone else who thinks that this could be a good place to be. And in the meanwhile, I leave some of myself here with you, and I take you with me.
Please rise in body or spirit, and let us sing hymn 1014 in the Teal hymnal, Answering the Call of Love. The words will be projected to your left.
You don't have to stand up for a few minutes now. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest of truth. Its sacrament and service is its prayer. When I first walked into a Unitarian Universalist church in 1979, this was the affirmation that the members of First Jefferson Unitarian Universalist Church said at the beginning of every service. Coming from a Catholic background, saying words like doctrine, sacrament, prayer held mixed feelings for me. There was part of me that held them in reverence. They touched something deep inside. And part of me was so averse to these words that saying or hearing them made my stomach ache. Needless to say, I had not made peace with my religious past. But over time, in the safety of Unitarian Universalist churches, I was able to redefine these words, to make meaning of them, a different meaning, a meaning that allowed me to say and hear these words without pain, while still embracing a sense of reverence. To me, being a Unitarian Universalist has always meant that being in a UU church, being part of a UU faith, that my spiritual journey was not static. And really, how can a journey be static? This church, this faith, encourages me and my belief system to evolve together. You see, Unitarian Universalism is all about evolution. It evolved from a liberal Christian faith to a more humanistic faith to now a more intentionally pluralistic faith, inviting people of all faith backgrounds to be part of our congregations. And still, Unitarian Universalism is evolving. And this church is evolving. It started out as a dedicated group of humanists who, a year after joining the American Humanist Association, joined the Unitarian Universalist Association. As a church, many years later, this congregation decided to be an intentionally pluralistic community, open to all faiths and beliefs. Evolution. Being pluralistic here entails living in tension. You see, we all believe a little differently, every single one of us. And living in that tension, both as a church and in a denomination, means it's a time, a place where this tension can create creativity. It can be a place where we can learn together, where we can grow, where we can evolve together. And that's foundational to who we are. But always when I talk about this, there are questions. How can a humanist who doesn't believe in anything supernatural have a close relationship with a pagan who believes in a goddess? And how will they worship together? How can a Christian in this church who believes in the path of Jesus have a close friend with a Buddhist who follows the path of the Buddha? And how do they worship together? I had lunch on Thursday with an Islamic friend of mine, Shoaib, and he's the president of the Islamic Center of Naperville. And I tried to explain all this to him, this concept of being pluralistic, that everybody believes a little different, and it was really difficult for him to get it. I don't think, even after we finished talking about it, I think it just didn't make sense. How could people who were different, who didn't have the same beliefs, come to the same church? I'm sure that many of you have had that experience, though, trying to describe Unitarian Universalism to somebody who doesn't understand it. I used to carry a card around just like, what Tom left us. But Tom had his little card out with the principles on it, and I'd hand it out to people that asked me. But now, I do something different. I share from my heart what seems to make sense for me at that time. Now, I do have a foundation. I kind of use this a little bit as a grounding when I talk about our faith. I start by sharing with people that, like my friend Shoaib, I say, well, we all gather together and we're people of different beliefs, but we do have common values. Our principles, the inherent worth and dignity of each person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, the interdependent web of all existence of which we are part. And then I talk about this quest for truth thing. In other words, that each of us, through our own personal experiences and the meaning we make from those experiences, develop a system of beliefs which we hold as our truth, sort of a combination of facts and beliefs that we affirm and live out in our lives. And if you think about it, every single person here has different experiences, different beliefs, different values, but we're grounded together in certain values. I can say to them, I am a Unitarian Universalist, and with all honesty in my heart say the quest for truth is my sacrament. Now, I know it's difficult to generalize about anything having to do with Unitarian Universalists, but I feel it's reasonably safe to say that the members of this church, and really all Unitarian Universalists, earnestly wish that the world would become more equitable, more just, more peaceful than it is now. Particularly hoping that those people on the margins, those people who are oppressed, those people that are abused, can find some hope, can find some healing. So when I talk about our faith, I explain that we are grounded in both social justice and service works, trying to help others, trying to improve the world the best we can. And I think all of us hold those values and beliefs that we want to make this world a better place. And we do it all in different ways. I think a foundation is what Tom was saying, that we all try to treat each other with respect and dignity, but each of us do little things differently to try to live out this value of making the world a better place. Some of us, recycle or collect styrofoam or develop relationships with people of races and cultures other than our own. Some of us donate supplies to post-incarcerated individuals at halfway houses. And some of us are working on this mentor program for discriminated and disadvantaged youth. We all do something. And so I am a Unitarian Universalist, and service is my prayer for a better world. Often I'm asked by others, but Shoaib was one of them, how does a community as pluralistic as yours stay together? Certainly you have values, and we understand that there's common values, but they think with all these people together, with so many different ideas, well, that's too many rooms. There's too many rooms in this church, and the walls can't hold us in. They're flimsy. People are going to hurt each other or be hateful to each other or, treat each other poorly because, well, you don't believe the same thing. When I say, well, what grounds us really is love. It's through the relationships that we develop here, the love we share, that our foundation, the foundation of this church, remains solid. And we see beyond religious prejudice, beyond race and culture, knowing that all people here, as we've said, affirm the inherent worth and dignity of everyone. We share our beliefs, our experiences, our meanings with one another, hoping to learn from one another, hoping to grow ourselves, to see different perspectives about the world and other people's experiences. And we do this intentionally by talking to each other in coffee hour, attending rituals and programs by the various groups in the church, Humanists can go to a Bible study. Pagans can attend a Science Sunday. Buddhists can go to a Jewish Holy Day celebration. And we can all go to social justice forums together. And we do that. It's not just an aspiration. So I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and love is my doctrine. Are we perfect at all this? No, we're not perfect. Sometimes we complain when an adult or a child sings out of tune. Sometimes we poke fun at other people's belief systems. Sometimes we get impatient when things are not the way we want them to be right now. But we forgive one another and we begin again in love. We continue to try the best we can to live our values, to live our principles, to be in community, a loving community with one another. So this really does work for me right now. Not to say that it won't change, because everything changes from time to time in Unitarian Universalism. But I can say from my heart, love is a doctrine of this church, the quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. Even though this was something said 40 years ago, and today it means a little different than what it meant so many years ago, it still means to me what it is to be Unitarian Universalist. And perhaps it speaks to some of you as well. But being a Unitarian Universalist means different things to each of you, to all of us here. Thus, it is complicated to describe what being a Unitarian Universalist is to someone unfamiliar with our faith. So when somebody asks you, family, friend, acquaintance, what is Unitarian Universalism? I guess I would say to you, speak from your heart. Talk about your experiences here. You could give them a card with the principles on it if you want to. But perhaps instead you could also say, you know, I went to this Science Sunday about ants and why that was important to you. Or I went to this beautiful solstice service and they lit the cauldron on fire at the end of the service. Or I went to this class about building my own theology. And then tell them why that was important and why you do that and what it means to you. And if that doesn't work, maybe you could talk about the prairie around the church that's been recognized by the Conservation Fund. Or talk about our labyrinth where people can meditate. Or talk about the styrofoam pickup or the Smile Project. Whatever is meaningful to you. Because when it's meaningful to you, when you talk about it, people will know that it comes from your heart. Today you heard from others about what the church means to them. And you sung songs written by and composed by Unitarian Universalists. Probably none of you heard today from us up here or the songs you sang what Unitarian Universalism exactly means to you. And that's really okay. That's really part of what it is to be a Unitarian Universalist. And when you share with others outside of here what Unitarian Universalism means to you, our walls stretch out just a little bit to make room. You see, all of us here have different beliefs, and our walls need to be flexible to embrace all the people who find a home here. Our doors are wide open for each of you and for everyone who enters our doors. Namaste. And now, a special treat. Gina Karsten will read a poem that she wrote for this service.
In the convoluted universe, vastly far and wide, I look out in wonder up into a starry sky. Inspirational rhythms nature doth provide, evokes a sense of harmony, both to the spirit and the mind. Transformed by a benevolent love, and forces that create. Thankful for Mother Earth and science I do not forsake. I challenge you to dig deep into the depths of your soul. Find a loving kindness, include yourself most of all. Nourish internal compassion, do not cultivate bias or hate. Be guided by moralistic reason, let go, celebrate. Life is cyclical in nature, live in the here and now. Use your experiences, your wisdom, to flourish and strongly grow. As days pass into weeks, become years that quickly pass, knowledge and understanding have been established. Having peace and love, i.e. tranquility, is something to uphold. However, it takes a collective, individuals who challenge what's not right, an effervescent spirit to create and uphold all life. So remember who you are, as in both an I and we. We are Unitarian Universalists in all totality. This morning's offering for the work of this church will now be given and received.
And now it's time for us to extinguish the chalice, but let us carry its flame in our hearts, reminding us of our third principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth. I invite you to rise one more time, and let us, one more time, and we're going to sing one verse of hymn number 1028 in the Teal hymnal, Fire of Commitment. The words will be projected to my left, or your left.
Thank
Buildings may fall down, ministers may retire, music may go out of tune, and beliefs may falter. No matter. We are this church. Without us, it is nothing, but with us, it can be anything. Now I invite you to turn around and greet one another. Let us share the love of this community with one another.